We're probably going to run around 5 or 10 minutes late by end of day today, but that's okay. Dinner's across the street. So Edward Bruce White is going to be speaking, and Elizabeth Chauffeur-Teague is going to be introducing him. So Elizabeth?
Okay. Hi, everybody. Good to see some familiar and new faces. All right. I'm Elizabeth Chauffeur-Teague. I have healthcare VC, and was very warmed to hear that healthcare is undervalued, and therefore think about it. Meta Ventures is the name of my healthcare VC. And I'm also host of Resilient Alphas, Marty's shop again, the healthcare stream for the podcast. So healthcare is my thing. And therefore, I am very pleased to introduce Edward from Combat Medical. He came all the way from the UK. So he has a great opportunity. Our investor group also looked at it, and we're diligencing it at the moment. So welcome. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Well, thank you very much, Marty, for inviting me to your event, and Elizabeth for introducing me. I just want to make sure everybody can hear me. Great. Okay, just make sure I stand close. So I'm Edward Bruce White, I'm the CEO and co-founder of Combat Medical. I've been with Combat Medical since inception. We're a UK company. We started in the UK. In terms of what we do, we're the first hyperthermic company that's been able to effectively deliver hyperthermic for chemotherapy and cancer treatments. And when I mean effectively, we've demonstrated in clinical trials to be 50% better than any existing treatment, anything yet to be proved that's being published. So we're seismically different. And we're targeting cancers that really have had nothing done in the last 30 to 40 years. I don't want to disagree with my previous speaker that cancer's been solved, but the cancers that we're talking about, they have moved on in an enormous amount of time. Breast cancer and other cancers and prostate cancer have had enormous investment, but for example, bladder cancer hasn't, and it's a massive unmet need. And it's also important that our treatment is just targeting the organ. We deliver the chemotherapy directly to the organ. So that means there are no systemic side effects like losing your hair. And what's slightly different about us is we're already approved. We're a device in Europe. We've become a drug company in the US. So we're approved. We've done over 100,000 treatments. We're generating revenue, positive EBITDA. So that means when I'm asking for the money today, all the money that you invest is to pay for our FDA registrational trial that's approved and that's up and running. So we don't have money to be able to support expensive FDA trials. We have support money to pay out to pay my salary. So it's a difference from most companies you'll be able to see to present. Why aren't we working? Let's move on. So what's the problem? There's been no innovation that's effective, affordable, the world's most expensive cancer. And bladder cancer is the one we're going to be focused on, but we do other cancer treatments as well. So let's actually break this down, what this actually means for you as patients. If we take the worst type of bladder cancer, which is BCG unresponsive, patients that have failed all disease, the standard of care is to have your bladder removed. Having your bladder removed is a very morbid operation, 5% mortality rate at 90 days. So the best treatments yet to be approved still, that have published their data, are a company called CV Oncology, listed for 1.8 billion off the back of interim data, and J&J. And if you take their treatment, after 12 months, only 4 patients are free of disease. That means 6 patients will have had to have their bladder removed. If you take our treatment and published data that we have, after 12 months of treatment, 7 patients are free of disease, and that means only 3 patients have had their bladder removed. So that's the type of difference that we're going to be able to make. As I said, we've got commercial credibility already. We did 4.3 million in sales, positive EBITDA of 500,000. We've done 100,000 treatments in Europe, mainly university hospitals, over 350 hospitals. We're sold already in 35 countries. We're direct in the UK and Spain. We've got over 40 publications. And we've got patent protection that specifically covers what we do. And like I said, we're the only company being able to successfully deliver hyperthermia. And it's a platform technology. So in Europe, we have a bladder system approved and a peritoneal system approved. We're going in the US with the bladder system first off. But we've also had $4 million of Innovate UK government grants. And we've developed 2 new products, which I'll talk about later in the presentation, that actually combine have 4 times bigger than the bladder market. So they're a real opportunity. And what we're here today, we're really talking about FDA pivotal trial, because that's where the money we need. So how does our system work? We catheterize the patient through the urethra, and then we circulate the fluid in a closed loop, delivering the chemotherapy. And then once we actually deliver it, we're delivering target to the organ. As I've already said, that means there are no systemic side effects. We're able to control the temperature because of our powerful patented aluminium. We're able to warm bladder within plus or minus 0.3 Fahrenheit. This has been proven by Duke University. We're able to control the pressure. Just imagine if I said, I'm going to double the pressure in your bladder because you're awake whilst you have the treatment. That's why other treatments have been effective. We've been able to control that. And it's user-friendly and fits in with existing practice. We know that because it can be used in a public NHS trust. We've actually done 20 patients in Duke University as well, so we know it fits in with their practice. And it can be used with multiple drugs. We're used with 5 drugs that are already approved within Europe, same drugs that are used for treatment in the US. But when I talk about some of the competitive drugs, all but one of them, we complement and we can become the instigator in terms of actually making them work and activating them. So why hyperthermia? Well, cancer cells are more sensitive to heat. They get stressed at 106 Fahrenheit, whereas good cells don't get stressed to 111. This activates the natural killer cells, a natural reaction that you already have within your body. And these heat stress cells then build lasting immunity. So that's how we get the longevity and improve the treatment. Also by heating, we get 10 times more killing power, concentration, the potency, the penetration. This has been proved in the science since the 70s, in fact. But we've also proved this with Duke University. They've shown that we get 10 times more drug when you're using our treatment, and this is being published. So let's step back and look what the patient journey is today. You get diagnosed, you have surgery, transurethral resection, and then high-risk disease, which is what we're focusing on. You'll get 27 treatments over 3 years, like 27 catheterizations, multiple treatments. 50% of the patients will actually drop out of that. It's got high side effects, but that's the standard of care. And if you get a low-grade disease, you'll get chemotherapy, has less side effects, but it's considerably less effective. Now, if I were to tell you the standard of care today, that means that you come to me, you've got bladder cancer, and now telling you 50% of patients in their first year will have a reoccurrence, 80% in their lifetime. This is why bladder cancer is the most expensive cancer to treat, because you just carry on this circle of treatment until eventually, unfortunately, it progresses and gets worse, and then you have to have your bladder removed. And then you've got a lifetime of incontinence and management. So it's a really nasty disease, which really hasn't had much investment. Our treatment is exactly the same: diagnosis, surgery, and then you have the same chemotherapy. So we've proven we have the same low side effects as we have with standard chemotherapy when it's warmed. But now we significantly reduce the recurrence and progression rates. So that means there's less treatment, less surgeries, and ultimately it stops patients having their bladder removed. Now we can show this clinically as well. So here's a table with a lot of data on, I appreciate, but the top 3 are from publications that we have, and the rest are from the leading competitors that have either got approvals or yet to be approved. So Cologne University, a famous university, 60 patients they recorded. Mind you, 75 is what you need for an FDA approval, but this is a registry trial, 92% complete response rate. The best data that's published anywhere on the market is by J&J and TAR, which was 82%. But if you look at something more clinically meaningful, which is 12 months out, and whether they're free from disease, we've got 70% complete response rate compared with CG Oncology with 46%. So we're significantly better. And in terms of the landscape, to show you the potential value of it, Merck, which most people might have heard of, Keytruda, a drug, a PD-L1, incredibly successful in treating a number of cancers. They're doing almost 30 billion in sales and growing 18%. But bladder cancer, 19% complete response rate. They're one of the few FDA-approved approved drugs. Ferring with nadofaragene, done a $500 million licensing deal. So that shows you that people are willing to put their money into it, 24% complete response rate. Immunity Bio, publicly listed, 2 billion. They've got a 36% complete response rate. J&J invested $500 million buying the TAR, we estimated, and they've got $500 million clinical trials program. They believe that they'll be doing $5 billion in sales in the coming years, 44% complete response rate. Still not approved, but will be approved shortly, we expect. And CG Oncology, and this is a real one to benchmark against us, they listed off the back of interim data that we expect to have at the end of 26 and 27 for 1.8 billion with a 46% complete response rate. If we look at it from a bottom-up perspective, just to give you an idea in terms of that we're not showing them inflating numbers, if we just take US patients, these are patients that have failed all treatments and they're being told to have their bladder out. There are 10,000 of these patients in the US, 15 of our treatments, that's 150,000 treatments. If we take conservative cost of $4,000, the drug and the disposable kit, That would give us 600 million revenue. To give you an idea, Immunity by itself with $36,000 treatment, over $500,000 per patient per year. The total addressable market is massive. If we move into it, we expect to be able to treat high risk, which represents 50% of the market. So we're going after a lot more. And you don't believe me, this is what market analysts are valuing the market, 21 billion by 2034. So we've got an FDA pathway that's now been reviewed. We had three IND meetings with the FDA, supported by a high-quality team led by Jonathan Jarrow. Now, why am I mentioning him specifically? Jonathan Jarrow is a professor of urology, so he knows what he's talking about from Johns Hopkins. But then he spent 10 years at the FDA, and he left as the chief medical officer, and he wrote the guidance for the clinical trial indication that we're getting approval for. So the guy that wrote the rule book advised us on our discussions with the FDA. The FDA have confirmed there were an NDA 505(b)(2), so we're existing labeling of drugs. It's just not indicated for use. So in the US, at the moment, about 1 million treatments we estimate every single year are used off-label of these drugs because none of them are approved. And the FDA confirmed it meets the guidelines protocol. And we've had advice from King & Spalding, a leading experts, that we'll be able to get our own J-code pricing for this. The trial is approved and up and running, and we're about to recruit the first patient any day now. We've got 3 hospitals that are live, and we'll have 25 by the end of this year. And the most important thing that I really want to focus on is we have first interim data in 75 patients, CG Oncology with 66 patients by the end of 2026 if we recruit at the rate that we believe we're doing. And we'll get FDA approval by 2029. We've got a great team, both Alberto and myself, serial entrepreneurs. We've taken over 20 products to market successfully, doing deals and selling products to Medtronic, Teleflex. So we really do have a track record, and we've been there. I personally have been involved in a $330 million listing in Singapore, raising money. We've done multiple IPOs, cash sales through the team. Our clinical advisory board reads like the who's who of bladder cancer and hyperthermia. Paul Sugarbaker is worth mentioning. He actually invented the HyPEC procedure that we're now developing with him. He's working for us on a pro bono because he believes so much in the project that he wants to be able to see his treatment expand to the masses. We've already got a global presence. We're sold directly in the UK and Spain. We've got a business model that's accepted. We get reimbursed across most of Europe. We sell just a device in public healthcare systems for $4,000 for a patient per year. In the US, it'll be a drug and device, a drug-device combination. So we have to pay for the drug and the device, but we have to pay for expensive trials to get approved and to get the drug approved and CMC. So that's why it's a lot more expensive. And if you compare this to all the other drugs, we're talking somewhere between $300,000 to $600,000, the price for the US. The model is a razor blade model. We give away the electrical system that provides the pump, and we make our money from the consumable. Already today, our sales are 90% coming from single use. We've got strong margins. Our blended gross margin is already 80% today, and it's good for distributors. This will grow up to 90% as we optimize the business and we move to the US and sell for more. We have established manufacturing and supply chains, and we've de-risked it because we've got dual source, given the number of crises that are happening in the world today. And that will all project 500 million in sales. Here are a few numbers, a lot of numbers on the page, but 24, you can see where we've got. I've already told you about that. But 25, why is 25 important? We're only allowing for 11% growth. We expect to be able to beat that. Why is that important? Because that pays for a significant portion of what we need to be able to fund. So if I overinflate that number and I don't hit that number, that means I don't have the money to pay my salary. The rest of the money has to come from you guys to be able to pay for the trial. And then it's conservative growth going forward in terms of what we're doing. We expect that clinical data land in 27 that will certainly grow our bladder business more than 45% in the existing accounts that we've got within Europe. Okay, I've just finished off. I told you it's a platform. We've already got 2 more devices, highly sophisticated, going into colorectal and ovarian cancer. These are finished development. We're about to go to first in human clinical trials with both these treatments. So the problem that we've been able to solve, that there's been no effective, affordable treatment. Well, with a 70% complete response rate compared with all these others, we've got an affordable treatment, which will become essentially a monopoly in Europe because we're becoming only affordable, and we'll become the most affordable in the US. We've got low side effects. We know that because we've done a lot more treatments. We've done over 100,000 treatments. If you compare this to all the drugs that are being approved, we reckon we've done 10 times more treatments, so much more experienced. So in terms of our timeline, we need to have an FDA trial to be approved to be able to get into the US. But it's also important because we need that FDA trial to be able to get to the European and the American guidelines to be able to become a first-line treatment. At the moment, we're a second-line treatment. This trial has started. It's going to cost 7 million. We need 5 million to be able to fund it. So that's why we're asking today. It's going to take us 18 months to get the 75 patients. And once we see that, we'll see $1 billion plus. In terms of the ask, we've raised $20 million stake, 60 million equity, 4 million in government grants. The pre-money is 38. If you compare that to comparable drug companies on the US exchange, just with phase 1 data, they're valued at 180 million. So this is a significant discount. We've already got 2.7 committed of this round. The previous round was raised 2.5 million from existing investors. So we haven't gone out to anybody outside of our investment group in 3 years. We've already got $500,000 in soft commitments. This is purely to fund the FDA trial. The offer is to buy ordinary shares, and anybody that invests before the end of September, because I want this round closed, will get a 1-for-1 warrant. They'll get a discounted price on any future event, any new investment or any sale of business. They'll be able to get a 25% discount. In terms of potential exits, J&J, who's a competitor, we're speaking with them, or we've spoken to all of these guys extensively. Actually, Teleflex, my old company, my boss went to work for them because we sold a laryngeal mask, another innovative company that I worked at for 6 years, to them. So I spoke to them. They want a product that is FDA approved before they really take it. So they're very conservative in their view, but we're speaking to them and we're advising them all the time. We've also recently completed a Kretsu, Northwest, and Rockies due diligence report. We've got an 18-page report, which has been independently verified. So we've got a lot of information. And I'll leave you on this slide so we can ask some Q&A about the timeline and part with some critical times. Thank you.
Thanks, Edward. We're going to do about 10 minutes of Q&A. Anyone have the first question? Okay. Mark, go ahead. Oh, does he have a microphone? I don't know if people online can hear you. All right. Let me.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So you said you're currently classified as not as a device going through these trials, but as a medicine. Is that
yeah? So
is that accurate?
in Europe, we're a device.
Yep.
In the US, we become a drug. So we have to get the drug approved, and it'll become a drug device combination sold as a package together.
So you're really just a device, right? You're just really, you don't care what the chemo is or whose chemo it is, right? Or
So
am I misunderstanding?
yeah, but in the US, we'll have to get the drug mitomycin that we're going for approval for, whilst it's used in hundreds of thousands, if not millions of installations per year. It's not approved and indicated, so it's used off label. The FDA recognized this, so we have to get it approved. And this important point is the drug, it actually does make a difference. Mitomycin is a generic drug that's been approved, but there's only one company in the world that makes highly soluble mitomycin, and that's a company called Bladder. It's a large pharmaceutical company. We've got an exclusive deal with them. Actually, they're our distribution partners in Germany. They sell up in Germany. So we've also got that tied up, another type of ring fence around us in terms of competitive advantage.
And what are the results in Europe and other parts of the world been in terms of the effectiveness of your device?
So we've got, in terms of the FDA trial that we're approving, which is called BCG unresponsive, like I said, the data I presented there, we've got multiple studies from multiple universities and large registries, about 1,000 patients that show consistently 70% complete response rate at 12 months, which is, like I say, 50% better. We also have a randomized trial against high risk, which is actually ultimately target market because it's a bigger market. That was against BCG immunotherapy. There's only a 50-patient trial, but we actually statistically showed that we were better than BCG, the current treatment at the moment, and that's what we're going after. And that will take it from being worth billions to tens of billions in terms of the market.
Okay. John Abellis, I just heard you have a question. Yes. Mark, can you hand that microphone right behind you to John? Thank you.
Yeah. There you go.
Hi. In the system, are you relying on just the heat effect on additive to the chemo?
Yes.
As a primary effect on cancer cells, or is there also a pharmacokinetic effect in terms of getting the drug into?
It's the combination of the two. You're making the drug much more effective because of the heat. So the heat itself is disruptive, but the heat alone wouldn't be enough to kill the cancer.
Okay. So in regard to other organs, in this device, you're heating up the solution of the chemotherapy, right?
Correct.
So in order to get it to other organs, you have to have a hollow approach.
Exactly
Does that
right.
limit the number of organs you can
So
address?
the peritoneal cavity is one that we already treat in Europe as well, but
The-
it's the peritoneal cavity. So for very, very late stage colon and other cancers, the treat. But what we've also been able to do, one of the treatments is we've actually been able to isolate parts of the colon. So we've got a telescopic catheter which isolates and then perfuses in parts of the colon. So it has to be a hollow cavity. So it is limited, but those cavities include peritoneal, ovarian, colon, colorectal, and gastric cancers, and so quite a few cancers to go after, over 2 million patients.
And what is your IP covering this kind of concept, please?
So the IP is around the heat exchanger. We've been able to patent specifically how we get 100% biocompatible metal-based aluminium heat exchanger. Nobody's been able to do that. They've tried it. We actually started with warming fluids in blood warming for anesthesia. And most of those products have been removed by the FDA because they have leaching of metals. So you need something that's highly conductive to make it effective, but it has to be biocompatible. And that's what we've come up with. And then we've got multitude, we've got 7 patents covering various other aspects.
Couldn't you just use microwave to heat the
So
solution?
microwave has been tried and failed unilaterally about 3 or 4 times. It's very hard to control it. There's one microwave system that's been successful. That actually was there when we started. We believe there are only about 10 of their systems now left in the market. If I told you that they can do 3 patients in a day, it costs 5 times as much. It burns 100% of the bladder, so you have superficial burns for a year. It's painful to treat. It's no surprise why it's not been successful.
Time for one more question.
I was just curious if you could comment on the shortage of BCG and how that actually is impacting your recruitment, because you are recruiting specifically for patients that are unresponsive to BCG, correct?
That's a good question. In the UK, we don't have such a shortage. Medac, who are partner for it, are also the largest supplier of BCG, and they supply, and they've got good supply of BCG, and Sanofi as well also have it. So there's so much of a shortage in terms of supply, and it's a 1-year treatment that we're looking at, not full 3-year treatment.
So what's the US situation though?
The US, there's more of a shortage in terms of the supply because they don't have a second supplier. They've only got Merck, so it's more dire. That's why it's a bigger issue in the US.
Okay, thank you.
So we're gonna probably wrap at this point. But I hope everybody understood, this has been approved in the EU as a device, and they are also able to supply chemotherapeutics within. So it's marketed. It's on the market. In the US, the FDA sees it as a device plus drug combination. That's why they have to do another trial, but it's the last one. And our investor group, we're a physician and scientist founded group. We like this because it's heavily de-risked is how we see it. They're going to add mitomycin, which is a known chemotherapy drug, and the device is working in Europe. So there's a diligence report, and I hope you'll take a look. So thank you so much, Edward. Thank you, everyone.
Fantastic. Great job.
Thank you very much.
We're going to move to Quinn Do from M6P Therapeutics. So Quinn.